The Indianapolis Colts have never been accused of doing things an ordinary way. But Chris Ballard and company made this pick on draft day, and while it may have come as a surprise, I think that they had something going and something planned for this guy, and that is the fifth round pick 151, Jaylen Carlies. Now, Jaylen Carlies played a majority of his time at safety in college. He played for Mizzou, and it was kind of surprising. He was from the Missouri Tigers, was listed at safety, played 3 years at safety, played 1 year at corner. But as soon as the Colts picked him, they transitioned him immediately over to the linebacker spot, putting him opposite of Zaire Franklin and with EJ Speed. Now, the Colts run a 4-3. They run a lot of cover three. So I think that this pick is going to be really, really, really crucial to how good that 4-3 can be, especially with the Colts not adding a lot in the secondary. I think this is a good pick, honestly. He's 22 years old. He is 6'3", 227. So as soon as this pick came out, there was no question what the Indianapolis Colts were going to do with Jaylen Carlies, and that was they were going to transition him over to linebacker. But I think that his ability to cover and to cover really well. I mean, this guy had a really successful career at Missouri. This is his draft profile. 6'3", 227, his hand 10 inches, arm 34 and a quarter, wingspan 81 and 4/8. I don't know why they just didn't put half. That's kind of funny. But his 40-yard dash is, I think, where it's really important, because what you want in a linebacker is a guy who's going to be able to drop into coverage and a guy who's going to be able to pursue, especially when you're talking about the speed and the wide receivers and tight ends and running backs that the AFC South has added. And look at the rest of the opponents for the 2024 NFL season. Almost said 2023. 2024 NFL season. I mean, you've got teams like the Lions, who are going to be both a running and a passing threat. And then you've got teams like, you've got easy teams like the Patriots, but you also got mystery teams like the Broncos. And who knows what they're going to be able to bring, if they're going to bring a rushing attack, if they're going to be a passing attack, or if they're going to let us score 70 points on them like they did Miami earlier this year. But this is the 40-yard dash time that Jaylen Carlies came out with, and that is a 4.5 40-yard dash. That's a really good speed for a linebacker, and it's pretty decent even for a safety. Actually, it's really good for a safety and corner. But I think that this is going to be a good pick for the Colts because it's going to allow them to lock up that center. I mean, you're talking about EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin, who is easily the most underrated linebacker room in all of football. This is a room that had well over 300 tackles this past NFL season, and Zaire Franklin is coming off a really good extension. EJ Speed is on last year, and again, like I said before, EJ Speed was a wide receiver in college, so this isn't a new formula that the Colts are trying to implement here. The Colts are doing something that I think is super out of the ordinary. The Colts are one of the premier teams to use what is known as a cover three defense. And we talked about this a few videos ago, but that is a defense that relies exclusively on zones, and it's a zone deep, which means that they're sending three guys deep, two safeties, and a linebacker, or not a linebacker, a cornerback deep. But it also relies on a lot of the guys like the linebacker room and even sometimes defensive linemen to drop back into coverage and be able to cover their own, sometimes 5-10 yard squares of trying to get the zone locked up. And, against teams, when you have the quarterback level that the Colts are going to be facing this year, specifically in CJ Stroud, who clearly has the eye for being one of the better quarterbacks in the league and has potential to be one of the best in the league, to even guys like Trevor Lawrence, who may have struggled at times, but is still nothing to look different at. To guys like you're facing Jared Goff, and there's quite a few other opponents. Those are just the ones that are in the division aside from Jared Goff, who's a Lions guy. So having a guy who can both drop back into coverage, but also a guy who's big. I mean, he's nothing to flaunt at, but he is a 3-year starter, played 48 career games for the Tigers. Overall, he tallied 220 total tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, 9 passes defended, 3 sacks, and 9 interceptions. Those are good numbers, especially for a 5th-round pick. I mean, I think that that's something that I'm happy to get, especially, like I said, in the 5th round. And don't look any different because Zaire Franklin was a 7th-round pick. Kenny Moore was undrafted. So you look at guys like that and the potential that this guy has. could be really, really good. Again, you look at this speed. The speed is really good. 10-yard split at 1.54, vertical jump at 32.5, broad jump at 10.5, bench press 20. I mean, this is all what they're saying. And, a few 7-mark drafts we've seen had Carlies listed, and he's not listed among the top 300 draft prospects listed by Pro Football Focus. There will be 257 selections in the draft. Now, I think this is really interesting. The 7th-round draft by Matt Miller had Carlies at number 140 by the Chargers. The Colts aren't afraid to gamble in late rounds, and this all came out in between the combine and the draft, obviously. But I pulled this article up for a reason, and that is that the Colts are taking a gamble with Jaylen Carlies, and I think it's going to pay off big for them because when he was listed as a safety, I don't think he's a top safety in the league. I don't think he's going to make it as a safety. I don't think he's a top corner in the league. But as a linebacker, I think there's a lot of potential for what this guy's going to be able to do. The question isn't if an NFL team will take a chance on Carlies. That's not a doubt. It's whether a team will use the draft pick on him. His stock is clearly on the rise, but if not, he figures to be a popular free agent signing. Players moving from safety to linebacker are becoming more common, but he'll be a strong practice squad candidate. Again, this all came out. But yeah, I mean, the main thing is that it could really use a lineup anywhere, play football. A team can use me anywhere, and I'll adjust to it. As soon as he got drafted, they asked him, what do you feel more comfortable with? Guarding tight ends, wide receivers, running backs? Do you feel more comfortable in this? And he said he spoke with extreme confidence, saying that he feels that he can guard anyone. And I think that confidence is good, especially in a guy who has experience in coverage. But ultimately, a guy like this is going to be really, really handy in this Colts when you've got more pressure. That's the biggest thing. And this was a room for the Colts that wasn't in question last year. They had Zaire Franklin. At the time, they had Shaquille Leonard and EJ Speed. It was seen to be a really good linebacker room. And then, obviously, Shaquille Leonard never really fully came back from injury. And then Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed had to take it. But I think that this is a really interesting, this Colts defense is really interesting to me because it's very young. Very, very young. I mean, you've got DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart being the oldest on the team, Kenny Moore being like up there, but everyone else is very young. You've got Leatu Latu, you've got Juju, you've got Justin Blackman, Nick Cross, who's still only 22, 23 years old. So you've got these guys coming in that are very, very young, very inexperienced. And the Colts, Jim Irsay, Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen are really trusting Gus Bradley to be able to take this and to make something out of it. And I think that them gambling on a pick like Jaylen Carlies is a really, really good sign that they have confidence in him. And I saw reports today. Everyone's second guessing this Colts secondary except for Chris Ballard, which either means he's crazy or a genius. And I'm not sold on which one he is yet. Don't get me wrong. I haven't yet made my decision, but I think that I'm leaning more towards genius than crazy. And maybe that's just, you fall in love with your captor. We have nothing we can do but trust him because, other than that, we just have to hate and boil in anger. But I think that it's really, really promising to see them take picks on guys like this. And again, like this article said, moving from safety to linebacker isn't a new thing in the NFL. But a lot of the guys that have done it have been pretty successful. And again, they moved EJ Speed from wide receiver to linebacker. And I think this is going to be a really, really fun pick, and I'm really excited to see what he's able to do on this Colts defense. Again, adding pressure and hopefully a healthy secondary.